How many people do we have now? Yeah, I think we are complete. Okay, so let me continue. So now you can see that init is moving from okay, it's recording. Okay, init is moving from 10, from 1, is moving from 1, and we are going to 20. So let me just continue. I just decided to do this so that we can see. I want to stop at 20. Yes, at this point, init is 20, and it's going to print out 20. Now that 20 has been printed, let's see what it has printed out. 20 has been printed. At this point, it will try to do what? It will try to initialize and increase, to try to increment by increasing init to 21 because of this plus plus. But when it does that, it now checks the condition. Is 21 less than 20? No. So it jumps out of the loop and finish. That's all. So let's see one more time. That's the end. It jumps out. That's why at the end of the day, you see 1 to 20 printed out. I think this is clear enough. Let's not waste time here. So this is what you can do. Someone else can decide to do a do while or a while loop. Okay, I'm going to do one more. Okay, I'll just do. I can say int init is equals to 20. I want to use another method to do the same thing. I'll say do. Remember what we are doing, we'll open our braces, we close it, and then after it, we'll do our what check while. Do while what? So now this time around, we are changing our logic. We initialize to 20 instead of the way we initialize to 1. Okay, so we said 20. So while init is what? Is less than or equals to 0. Okay, then what do I do? Here, I print init and I decrease init in the code. I'll do minus minus. Okay, so let's see the output of this. So the first time init will be 20. Oh, sorry, this will print, this will do from 20, 19, 18. Sorry. I can do another thing. So I say print init, then I increment init. Sorry. Okay, and I check. Do the same check. 20. Okay, so it's like this. Okay, so I just wanted to do exactly what we've done here in another method. Okay, so maybe as our assignment, I can say you should do it from 20, 19, 18, and downward like that till you get to 1. Okay, so let's see what this prints out for us. Let's just show the, let's separate both of them so that we can know which one is the for loop and which one is the while loop. Okay, all right, let's run this. I'll just run it straight, so no need to debug. Okay, so let's see. You see, for the first for loop, we started with 1 up to 20. For the other one, then it started up to 1 up to 20. So the do while and this for loop, I've used them to do exactly the same thing. Do we understand? So we can use loop in any way. Once you understand the structure, we understand that do would start before checking the condition. But for, it will do what? It will initialize, check, increment, initialize, check, increment, initialize, check, increment, and all that. So is that understood? So quickly, let's go to arrays. I'll create let me quickly create a function, a method, private void test. This, I'll put all the loop code here so that in case we want to reference it or use it somewhere else. So I'll put on my code here. So we have it. Okay, so let's go to array. So our main is clean now. There's nothing in our main method. It's clean. Every other thing has been moved into another segment of code. I can remove this. This one, yes. Okay, any questions so far before I continue? Any question? Okay, what is an array? Let's draw something. Let's say, for example, as we're in the class now, I give us an assignment. And I decided that, okay, I want to store the numbers or the score of each student into like a list or an Excel file. Okay, I decided to put for the first student, I put 10 here. I put 20 for the next student. I put -5 for the next student, and so on and so forth. So, okay, so this looks like a list, right? But we can store this list in memory and reference it with a name. Maybe you call array or ARR. Let me just, I'm the one giving it this name. So whenever I call this array, it brings out all these guys for me. So this is what we refer to as an array. An array is a list of what? Of either similar values being stored in memory. So whenever in my program I'm calling this guy, it's fetching me all these items in it. So for an array, it has a fixed length, as you can see. Okay, but we have another type of array that have it can have, the length may not be fixed. I'll tell us that's an array list anyway. So, but for an array, for just for our knowledge now, that's fixed length. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's say the name of our array is ARR. I can decide that the name is ARR. This number 10 is an index of what? It's an index of 0. So array starts from 0. So if I want to call the value inside number 10, I'll just call ARR 0 and it will give me 10. So remember your variable. When I explained variable with this concept also, I said that variable is just a named memory location where values are stored, right? So now we are storing these different values in these memory locations, but we are referencing all of them as an array. So whenever we are calling the name of the array, the first reference location, which is 0, will give me 10. This 20 will give me ARR1. And the next one will give me A2. Yes. Next one. Anyway, I won't finish this. Let's just, it's just to try to explain it to you. So, till the last one, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. Okay, somebody should be asking me now, okay, so how does all this one concern me? What's my business with all this? Okay, your business is that for you to do programming, sometimes you will encounter when you need to store some values, some related values, okay? And you would, oh, okay, I got it. 3, 4, 5, 6, there should be 6. And you need to create an array to store these values. So just like I said, let's say I have a problem. I want to store the score of all the students in this class into a list like this, an Excel file or something. But I want it to be in memory, so I can use an array to store it. And whenever I want to call the first guy, I just call ARR0. Whenever I want to call the next guy, I do this, and so on and so forth till I get to 6. So this is what they call an array anywhere in the world, okay, or anywhere in any program. So the index starts from 0, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't start from 1, 2, 3, 4. It starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we should not forget that. So let me continue sharing my screen. Okay, so that is what we'll be looking at. Let me close this. Okay, so there are two ways of declaring an array. One is what I wrote the other time when I said you need to know the type of arrays that you want to declare. You can't mix the types together. You can't create an array of string and also put some integer values into it, or you can't create an array of floats or double and be putting other values into it. So you need to create an array for a particular data type. Okay, so the definition here says that an array provides an ordered collections for elements. Each element is accessed via an index, which I just explained, and the index ranges from what? 0 to 1. Number of 0 elements, blah blah blah. Number of elements can be found via the array's length. Okay, so to declare an array, all you just have to do is, what's the data type of the array you want to declare? Is it float? Is it integer? Is it string? So for example, we say string. So when someone asked me the other time that what's the difference between this string and normal string, so this is the simple explanation now. So I can say string of names. Okay, so where this names is the name of my array, just like we have string of what arguments. Then I can now say new, okay, string, and I say that, okay, how many number of spaces or how many cells do I want to assign to the array? Remember from our let's go to it. From our whiteboard, we have how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? And we said it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not counting with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that's what we have. Let's go there. Okay, so I can say 6. Having it in mind that it starts from 0. Okay, so I can now say names. So I can check the names of people in this meeting, and I'll do it to assign and say names. So now I want to put values into each cells of the array. So to put values, it's as simple as just saying for the index of 0, which name do I want to put? I want to put Developers College. Let's just say developers. Okay. The next guy name, I want to put in the position 1, I want to put Emmanuel. Okay, up to, so let's copy and paste so we don't waste time. Up to, so that's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to be 5. So because when you declare 6, then 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do we understand this? What I'm trying to do?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so when you declare an array of string 6, that means you are declaring 6 spaces, right? But because you are declaring 6 spaces, you need to specify 6, what's it called? 6 spaces, 6 names. But remember, it starts from 0 So there will not be anything like name 6. That's a common mistake that people make. This one will not exist. If you try to do this, you can assign it like this, but when you want to use it for anything, to complain and throw an error. So this guy will not exist. So now when you have this, I can now decide that I want to print out all the names that are stored in this array. So to do that, remember we just learned for loop, right? So I can just use my for loop and say for int I equals to 0. Remember why I'm using 0 is because I know that the first guy, it's always an index of 0. That's why I'm using 0. Remember in our previous example, we were using 1. So you must understand when and how to use this. So what's the condition? The condition is that until I is less than the length of the array. So now, how do you know the number of items in the array? To know the number of the items in the array, just put the name of the array, names, dot, then you see the length. Okay, so that is it. So the length is 6. So I'm saying I want to start from 0 to 5. That's why I'm saying when I is less than 6. Okay, so at the end of the day, when I want to stop, it's when I is equal to 6. I'll now check, is 6 less than 6? No, then it has to stop. Okay, so then the increment is what? I plus plus. So we open our braces and we close it. Please, this concept of what's it called? The concept of for loop, do while, do loop is the same thing across Java, C#, Python. It's just that the little syntax are different, but it's the same. Once you know it in one language, automatically when you are reading in another language, it becomes better. Even in JavaScript, it's the same thing. Okay, so you just need to know how to manipulate your ways around it. So I would say system dot out dot print line. I just want to print what? Name. Now, this is where we need to be careful. I said I want to print name, right? So names, remember we have index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I will not go and put 0 or 1 here because I want to print the names that correspond to I, because I know that I is going to change as this loop is moving from 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll just put I inside here. So that is very important. We should not forget. So I want to print all these names out. I want to print developers, Emmanuel, HP, Tila, Victor, and Jane. Those are the names I want to print out. So this is how we go about it. Then I just execute the code and let's see what happens. Run. Okay, so fine. So now let me do this and say, let's try this and see what happens. Since I'm not printing it out, it's my another to go. Okay, can you see now? It's saying that index 6 is out of the length. So don't go and make mistake, because when you define this array as 6 and you think there's an index of 6, no, this does not exist. It starts from 0 and it ends in 5. And so this is what happens here. I can tell this thing to print the length of the array before it starts. So the length of the array is what? Names.length, so that we can be sure and know how many items will be printed. Okay, so let's go. So the first thing you should print is the length. Okay, so we can see printed the length 6. So now that we know that the length is 6, let's look at this operation again. When I is equal to 0, it checks is 0 less than 6. It says yes. So it prints the array, the value inside what? The names of 0, the array 0 index. Then it increased I to 1 and check, is 1 less than 6? Yes, it goes here and print out the content, which is the manual. It continues like that till it gets to Jane, and when it's done, it stops. Okay, so that's the simplest or the simple way to understand how our array works. Another way of declaring an array is this. So instead of declaring the array like this, I can decide to do, let's copy the same thing. I can decide to do this. Names, comment out this, and use what? This guy instead. And in between, I begin to do what? I begin to put in these names myself, one after the other. Okay, so that's what the next page is going to tell us. So instead of declaring them and just declaring the length, you can decide to put the values individually. So at this point, putting the values, you are the one that will determine how many lengths or what the length of your array will be. So right now we know it's 7, so I can just copy this individually. So these are the two major ways whereby you can declare an array. Maybe another time we'll look at array list because time is fast spent now. But is this still looking like we are getting it at all? Because the response is quite cold or something. Are we getting this?
Yes. Yeah.
Or is there something I need to do for you to understand it better? Okay, so we can have this. So instead of now assigning those names, remember we are already assigning it here. So automatically this first guy becomes your 0. This next guy becomes your 1. This one becomes your 2. This one becomes your 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's the index that they will take. So when we run this, we should still get the same thing. You can see. So it's still giving us our index as what? 6. And then we have our name here. So this is how you to work with arrays. You should know that when you are declaring an array, the item or the data type must be the same throughout. When you are using string, you are using string. When you are using float, you are using float. You can't have, I can't have something like this. Let's see, 56. Okay, it will throw an error. Except I want to make the integer, I want to make it a string. Then it will accept it. Because anything in quotation mark is a string. So I can run it like this and it will accept it. But I cannot use a float. Or let's say once I remove this, I want to say I want to use floats. Floating numbers, always put F at the back. There's a problem. So you can't do this. So the same type must be in the collection. You should always note that. Okay, all right. So let's quickly move on. There's no time. The last thing we need to talk about is the for each statement. So instead of writing or printing out the array with a for loop, this is a for loop command. We have something we call for each statement. Just type for each, select it, then it gives you the syntax. So the syntax says, give me the current value. So I'd say, for example, let's say I'd say int I, and here I put the name of the array, names. Okay, so you can decide to just say, let's say I, then names as the names of the array. What's the length of the array? Let's use, no, let's not use this example because it might run into trouble later. Let's use the own example and see how we can do it. Okay, so they are using for a floating array. So I'm not, names is a string. So better, instead of using that int, let me use a string because it might give me, okay. So what name did I give it? I used I. Okay, so let me just use int name. So this is talking about, we want to loop through this guy, right? This is an array. Where's my array? Did I declare it? I declared it up here. Okay, so now let me do this so that we can see it very well. Instead of this, I'll put name here. Okay. So now let me explain this. So what this is doing is that look at the for loop, look at the for each. This is saying that for each item in this array, for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, for each item, print them out. That's all I want to do. So now, for each item, it's going to collect the first thing, 1, the list or the array, which is this. So put it here, okay? Then the loop declaration, according to the document, they call this loop declaration. So that means we are saying that for each item here, we are giving it the name, or I can use something like maybe Ola or something. I can use any name here. So whatever name I use here, it doesn't matter. But we are saying that each item inside it must be what? A string, because the type of the array is already a string. So each item must be a string, and we are using this name to represent each of these items as we move along. So what will happen is the system, when you want to run it, you have this print here. So this becomes Ola, no more name, because this is the variable declaration of that. So what happens is in this list or in this array, the first time it comes here, it picks this developer value and prints it out. Then it goes in a loop again. So, but in this time around, we don't have all these increments and condition. So to just print all the items inside the array. So it will print this one first, move again, print the second one, move again, print the third one, move again, print the fourth one, fifth one, and the sixth one. So that is what this for each statement would do. So it's saying that for each item in this array or in this list, print it out. That's what I'm doing. So now we don't always do prints every time. Remember that anything can be inside here. You can type any expression if you want to do some calculations or anything. But the block statement is what is important. And this definition. So you must remember that you need to declare a variable, just like the way we are declaring variable here. Remember, integer I0, right? But in this case, we don't have an increment and we don't have an endpoint. All we have is what? We have the list itself or the array itself to be printed out. So if you do this, let's comment out this so that we can see how this works. Let's run this. Okay, so we see that everything in the array is printed, exactly the same thing. So this is where we are going to end the control structures and loops that we've been looking at. We need to move on to something else now, which is, I don't want to talk about this, maybe another time. Has anybody heard about the switch statement? The switch statement. Are we here at all?
No.
Yes.
Nobody knows about the switch statement.
No, I never heard of it.
Okay. Then I need to talk about it. The switch statement is a decision-making control that you use to determine which path you should go. Okay, so we can check what I think we can also see my screen, so we can read what is written there. But I'll just give us a practical example. Let's say, for example, let's bring back our scanner. Where's our scanner? Instead of typing again. So here I'm saying the user should enter a number, right? So I can do a switch and say switch on whatever the user enters. The user is entering OP, right? Switch, and I'll say this. Okay. So now, why is it showing error here? Cannot resolve. Oh, it's AP, not OP. Okay, in 10 minutes time, this meeting will end again. Please try and join back so that there won't be, we'll just continue. After we join, the next 40 minutes will be done. We won't even spend up to the 40 minutes. Because I've not gotten to what I'm supposed to do today. This is just to complete the fundamentals. Because the next slide is where I really want to go into. And it's very important in Java. Okay, so let's go back to class. In the switch statement, you switch on a particular entry or a particular value. Let's say we ask the user to enter a number, okay, and I want to switch on that number. So I can say case if the user should enter let's say 30, then I might say print out F. That means, let's say I'm asking for the score. Okay, let's say score in our exam. Enter student score. Let's use that as a quick example. Enter student score. So if the student should score, let's say, if case is, let's say, 40, I put this. Note all the syntax. You know, Java is a strongly typed programming language. So you must note the lower cases, you must note all the syntax. This is not a semicolon, this is a colon. Okay. So I'll say if the case is 40, I just want to do system.print F, that's fail. I'm just using this as an example. Just print F. Okay. Then I say I can do break. Let's just put a break. Break means that after printing the F, just leave the condition. So I can say if case it's 50, that's a credit. Print credit. Print C. Okay, then let's have one more case. What is it saying? Duplicate. I'm going to change it. You should be patient. Why is it not moving? Okay, control. Okay. So print, let's say B. Let's stop here. Okay. So look at this structure. These are all English. If you can read it, I don't want to read that. So, but let me explain. I'm asking the system or the user to enter a student score. So I want to take a switch on the score that the user is going to enter. And I'm going to say, okay, if the user enter anything that is 40, if he enters a 40, just print this out. And after printing this out, break. That means leave this loop and stop. That's what that breaks means. Okay. So it will not, once it matches, once it checks what the user entered and it matches 40, it just prints this guy and leaves. But if it doesn't match 40, it checks the next one and see, does it match 50? If it does not match 50, it checks the next one. Does it match 60? Okay. So whatever it matches here, it perform whatever you ask it to perform. You can have a chunk of code inside it. You can have a chunk of code, whatever you want to write. Okay, depending on what you are solving or the problem that you have at hand. Okay, so but now if all these conditions, let's say the user entered 30, what should happen? In that case, you now need to put what they call a default. So default means that in case this person did not enter any of these options, do this. Okay, so to do that, I'll just say print invalid option or something. Or invalid value. This is just an example, remember. So, and we break, and that's all. So, check all these conditions. Did the user enter 40? Do this. If not, check this. Do this. If not, check this. Do this. If nothing matches, do default. Okay, so I'm going to run this now, and let's see how it works. Okay, what should I enter as a score? Any suggestion?
60.
60. Okay. Can you see? It printed B and it ended. That's it. So it switched on whatever the user entered and it ended. Let's run it again. Which other value should I put?
Let's try 30.
30. Yeah. So before I press enter, what do you think it will print from the flow of the code?
Invalid.
Yes. Thank you. So now you understand how to use a switch statement. So You can Google more and find out more about that. Let's move on to the business of the day before we go off. Okay, we are going deep now. Object-oriented programming. How many people have heard about this before? Have you heard about OOP?
No.
Nobody.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, some of us. Okay, so in object-oriented programming, we have something they call object-oriented paradigms. Okay, there are some basic concepts, but 4 are the most important or the most common. The first one is abstraction. The second one is encapsulation. Another one is polymorphism. And the last one is what? Inheritance. Okay, so I have a definition of all this here, but we are not going to go deep. I'll just try to explain it because at our level, we might get confused. But it's very important for you to know it. Okay, so you can go more online and find out about object-oriented programming and the concepts. Okay, so Java is an object-oriented programming because we call it object-oriented paradigms, and there are some programming language that implement these paradigms, and that's why we call them object-oriented programming languages. So one of the concepts is what they call abstraction. Okay, for example, that they gave on this screen, they said that your TV, when you put on your TV, do you know how your TV works? Are you bothered about the circuit connection, how the circuit is feeding the screen, and how it's getting signals from the TV stations and all that? Okay, you don't bother yourself about that. All you just want is that you want to put on the TV, and the TV should work. So that is an abstraction concept. That means that we are trying to hide some basic information away from the user that is using the system. Okay, that is an OOP concept. Let's just put it that way. Okay, so we'll be talking about classes, objects, variables. For example, when you want to send SMS, all you want to do is to enter the phone number of the recipient and you click send. You don't want to bother about how the technology behind how it's going to move your SMS from your phone to the person's phone. So that is abstraction. So that's number 1 concept. Let's just take it like that for now. Okay, let's go to the next one, encapsulation. Okay, encapsulation is the practice of doing what? Keeping something private. Okay, so now, for example, let's say I'm a woman and I'm pregnant. The first 2 months, maybe I know from day 1 that I'm pregnant. I may not want the world to see that I'm pregnant in the first 2 months, but it will get to a time when I can't hide it anymore. Okay, so but there are some inner people in my family that might know from day 1, maybe my husband. And so now if my husband, I have some I hope he doesn't, but anyway, when we have some other close people in the family that he wants to tell, maybe his mother, that the mother too can know. So that means it is the husband that is giving access to the pregnancy information, right? But if the husband does not give access or tell the mother-in-law about the pregnancy, nobody will know. Okay, that is the concept of encapsulation. The husband is the public announcer or is the public guy that is running his mouth about and telling everybody that my wife is 2 months pregnant or 1 month pregnant. But the woman itself is keeping it encapsulated inside of her because nobody, even if everybody looks, they can't see. Do you understand? So let's just take the concept like that, okay? So we encapsulate something so that you can use it again and again some other time, okay? That's the only way I can explain it right now. But we can read more to find out about. I have less than 1 minute. Please join back so that we'll continue from here. Okay, the next one is inheritance. Okay,